After donating a kidney to my brother, he promised we would always be close. 6 months later, I found out from Facebook that he had moved states and changed his phone number. When I showed up at Thanksgiving, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "You were just convenient." 3 years later, he needed another life-saving surgery, and this time, I wasn't convenient anymore. I grew up in Goshen, Indiana. Small town. The kind of place where you recognize every truck in the grocery store parking lot and wave at strangers just because they might know your cousin. My brother Rick and I were always different. He was the one everybody looked up to. Good-looking, good at sports, got the scholarships, married his high school girlfriend. People loved him. He always had that fake charm that played well in public, but at home, it was me helping Dad fix the roof or keeping Mom company when she got sick. I was the quiet one. The one people called when they needed something done, no questions asked. So when Rick called me late one night in May 2019, I answered. It was just past 10 p.m., and I was watching TV after work. His voice was different, low, shaky. "I've got kidney failure," he said. Just like that. Stage 4. They said I need a transplant. I didn't say anything at first. He went on, talking about dialysis and how he was tired all the time. His wife had already gotten tested, and she wasn't a match. Neither was Mom. He said I was his last shot before getting put on a list, and God knows how long that takes. Of course I'll get tested, I told him. It wasn't even a question in my mind. He was my brother. 2 weeks later, the hospital called. I was a perfect match. Rick cried when I told him. His wife hugged me when I came down to Indianapolis for the final evaluations. They said I was saving his life. Rick sat next to me in the hospital room after the surgery and said, "I'll never forget this. We're bonded now, you and me. We're blood. Real brothers." I cried that night. It felt like maybe all the years of being overlooked, of him always being the favorite, had melted away. Like this finally made us equal. Like maybe I'd done something good that would actually last. For a while, it seemed like I was right. He called every few days to check on my recovery. Even sent a new tool set for my birthday. I told people he'd changed. That we were closer now. Then 2 months later, he stopped answering my calls. At first I figured he was busy. He had 2 kids, a job, stuff going on. I didn't want to bother him. But a month passed. Then another. I started getting this knot in my gut every time I saw his name in my phone, unread. Then I saw the Facebook post. Rick's wife, now ex-wife, posted a picture of their new house. New chapter in Charlotte, North Carolina, it said. There were pictures of the kids in a new school. A new car in the driveway. A whole new life. I wasn't mentioned. Not once. I stared at that photo for 10 minutes. I checked my texts. My missed calls. Nothing. Not even a heads up that he was moving. Not even a goodbye. I tried calling again. Straight to voicemail. I messaged him. No reply. I even emailed. Nothing. It took everything in me not to drive down there and demand answers. But I waited. I held my tongue. Maybe he'd come home for Thanksgiving, I told myself. Maybe he'd explain. Thanksgiving came. My parents hosted like always. I showed up early to help cook. My mom seemed nervous, like she knew something but didn't want to say it. Around 3 p.m., Rick walked in the front door with his wife and kids like nothing had happened. I stood up from the couch. "You moved?" I asked. He gave a half smile. "Yeah. Charlotte. Job opportunity came up." I just stared at him. "You didn't think to tell me?" He shrugged. "Didn't see the point. What the hell does that mean? He looked me dead in the eye and said, "You were just convenient." My stomach dropped. The whole room went silent. I felt like I'd been slapped. "You're saying I was just what? A free organ to you?" He didn't flinch. "You offered. I didn't beg you." I walked out of the house without saying another word. I didn't eat. I didn't say goodbye. I got in my truck and drove home in silence. That was the last holiday I ever spent with family. For the next 3 years, I kept my distance. Rick didn't come home for Christmas, even after our dad died the next year. Didn't come for the funeral. Not a call. Not a message. Nothing. My mom made excuses for him, but deep down, she knew. He'd cut all of us off, not just me. Then came this past February. I was at work when my phone rang. Charlotte area code. Something in my gut told me to answer. "Hello?" I said. There was a pause. Then Rick's voice. "Hey. It's me." I didn't say anything. I need help," he said. "It's about the kidney." My heart froze. "My body's rejecting it," he said. "There's an infection. They're trying everything, but, they said if it doesn't stabilize, I'll need a partial graft. Another donor." Still, I didn't say a word. "You're the only close relative with the right markers." I checked. I wouldn't be calling if I had any other choice. I finally spoke. "You remember what you said to me?" He sighed. I was angry. "No," I said. "You were honest. You said I was convenient." "I didn't mean it." "Yeah. You did. You just never thought you'd need me again." He tried to talk, but I cut him off. "You don't get to come back now. I gave you part of my body. You spit in my face. I don't owe you a damn thing." "I'll die," he said. "Then maybe you'll finally understand what it means to lose something you can't get back," I said. And I hung up. A week after I hung up on Rick, I started getting messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Old mutual friends. A couple of his former co-workers. Even his ex-wife messaged me. Somehow, Rick had started telling people that I was refusing to help him out of spite. That I was bitter, that I was holding a grudge over some stupid argument. He left out the part where I cut open my body to save his life and he threw me away like a paper plate. At first I ignored it. Let them believe whatever they wanted. But then someone messaged my mom, some church lady who barely knew us, saying she was praying I find forgiveness. That pissed me off. Now Rick was dragging my name through the mud just to get sympathy. He wanted to make me look like the bad guy because I wouldn't give up more of my body after he trashed the first gift I gave him. Then came the real punch to the gut. One night around 11 p.m., I heard a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, and I live way out past the edge of town. It's rare someone just drops by. It was Rick's ex-wife, Sarah. I opened the door, shocked. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I drove up from Charlotte," she said, tired. "Can I come in?" I let her in, mostly because I didn't know what else to do. She sat at my kitchen table, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "He's worse than he told you." I didn't say anything. They think he might have months. Weeks, maybe. He's on dialysis again. They're trying to stabilize the infection, but the kidney's failing fast. He didn't want me to come. But I'm not here for him. I'm here for the boys. I blinked. "What?" "They're scared," she said. "And confused. And Rick, he won't tell them anything. He just keeps saying Uncle Nate turned his back on me." She shook her head. "They don't know you gave him that kidney. They don't know anything. That hit me hard. Those boys used to call me Unky Nate and beg to ride on my shoulders at Christmas. I hadn't seen them in years. They need to hear your side, she said. They deserve that much. I didn't know what to say. My throat was tight. I stared at the old scar on my side, the one they cut through to get the kidney out. He made this mess, I finally said. I know, she said. But they didn't. And they miss you. I nodded slowly. I'll think about it. She left early the next morning. But her words stuck in my head. I didn't go to Charlotte. But I did write a letter. I wrote everything down. What I did. What he said to me. How he ghosted me. The truth. I sent it to Sarah and asked her to read it to the boys when the time was right. That was supposed to be it. But then I got a letter in the mail a few days later. It was from Rick. A real, handwritten letter. 8 pages long. His handwriting was shaky and hard to read in places. But he wrote it all. Every bit of it. He admitted to being selfish. Arrogant. Afraid. Said the move to Charlotte wasn't about a job, it was about control. About starting over without the guilt of what he owed me. He said when he looked at me, he felt like he was looking at a debt collector. Like I was a reminder that he didn't deserve to be alive. He said he hated himself for it. Said it ate at him every day. But instead of apologizing back then, he pushed me away. Blamed me. Lied about me. Because that was easier. He wrote. You saved my life and I threw you away. I don't expect forgiveness. I just didn't want to die without saying it. Then at the very end, he asked me one more time. If there's anything left in you, anything at all. I don't deserve it, but I'm begging. Please help me. I read that letter a dozen times. Couldn't sleep for nights after. And then something happened that changed everything. I found out he'd added me as a medical proxy on his hospital records. Without my consent. They called me from the hospital in Charlotte, told me that if he went into a coma or needed emergency authorization for surgery, I'd be the one who had to decide. Not his ex-wife. Not our mom. Me. I was stunned. Angry. Confused. This man cut me out of his life, used me, humiliated me, and now that he was on his last legs, he was handing me control of his fate. That was when I realized. This wasn't over. The call from the hospital stuck with me for days. I didn't return it right away. I just let the voicemail sit there, replaying the words in my head. You've been listed as Mr. Richard Elwood's medical proxy in the event of incapacitation. They asked if I wanted to confirm or decline. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Then, about a week later, I got another call. Same hospital. But this time it wasn't a voicemail. I answered, thinking maybe something had changed. Mr. Elwood, the woman on the phone said. Speaking. This is Nurse Calvin from Charlotte Presbyterian. Your brother was admitted last night. Septic. He's currently sedated and on life support. We're going to need a decision in the next 48 hours regarding further intervention. My heart was pounding. I asked, hasn't he got anyone else? She paused. His ex-wife refused medical responsibility. Your mother declined it. Your next of kin and proxy. I hung up without saying anything. That night I drove. Not even sure where I was going, but I ended up near the old middle school where Rick and I used to ride bikes after class. I sat in the truck for an hour staring at the empty field behind it. Thinking about all the times I'd covered for him growing up. The time he crashed our dad's truck and I said it was me. The time he cheated on a chemistry final and I helped him redo the whole thing just so he wouldn't get suspended. The time he cried in my arms when his first kid was born because he didn't feel ready to be a dad. He always needed someone to fix it. And I always did. But this time, he'd made sure I had to choose. Next morning, I called the hospital. "I need to speak to someone in charge," I said. They transferred me to a doctor. He gave me the details. Rick was alive, but fading fast. The infection had spread. His body was weak, and the anti-rejection meds weren't doing enough anymore. There was one option. Another partial transplant and an experimental immune therapy combo. High risk. Might extend his life by months, maybe a year or two. Maybe. They asked me if I was willing to come in for evaluation as a living donor again. I said, "Let me think about it." And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through his medical records. Since I was listed as proxy, I had access. I logged into the hospital portal and read through everything. It was mostly expected stuff: labs, notes from nephrologists, case summaries. Until I found something in the psychologist's notes. Patient admits he intentionally pushed away primary donor sibling due to unresolved guilt and resentment. Reports manipulating sibling during recovery and expressing false reconciliation to secure donation. I read it twice. 3 times. He admitted it. He faked that whole brotherly bond after the transplant. The crying. The promises. All of it. Not because he cared, but because he knew it was what I needed to hear and what would get me to say yes. I felt sick. But I wasn't done yet. 2 days later, I drove to Charlotte. I didn't tell the hospital I was coming. I showed up during visiting hours, walked right up to the front desk, and told them who I was. They took me up to ICU. He was barely recognizable. Pale. Tubes everywhere. Machines beeping slow and steady. His face looked thinner, older. Nothing like the golden boy I remembered. I stood there for a while. Just staring. And then I whispered, "You were right about one thing, Rick." I was convenient. I leaned in closer. But not anymore. I turned to the nurse and said, "I'm declining proxy." She blinked. You're giving up decision rights?" "That's right," I said. "Find someone else." And I left. But the story doesn't end there. 3 days later, I got a certified envelope in the mail. Inside was a copy of Rick's will. And a letter from his lawyer. Turns out Rick didn't just name me proxy. He'd also left me something. His house. His car. And the rest of what was left in his personal account, about $43,000. Along with one handwritten line at the bottom of the will, "I took your blood. I gave you my burden. Maybe this helps even the score." It didn't. It made everything worse. I sat at my kitchen table that night, staring at the check and deed like they were cursed. My brother was still alive barely, but the man I used to know had been gone a long time. And now here I was, holding the leftovers of his life like they meant something. $43,000. A car. A house in Charlotte I didn't want. Like all that could fix what he did. Like that made it fair. I didn't cash the check. Instead, I booked one last flight to Charlotte. He was still in ICU when I got there. Barely conscious. He couldn't talk, but his eyes opened when he saw me. They were glassy. Weak. But there was something there, fear, maybe. Or shame. I sat down next to him. Quiet. No nurses. No machines beeping. Just me and him. "I saw the psychologist's note," I said. "You faked all that brother crap. You only said what I needed to hear. And I fell for it. Like a damn fool." He blinked slowly, and a tear rolled down the side of his face. I kept going. "You spent your whole life getting your way. You took everything I had, even my body, and when I needed you to just be honest, you spit in my face. All I wanted was the truth. Not a damn apology. Not a check. Not a house. Just to matter. His mouth moved slightly. I leaned closer. He whispered, I was scared. That's when I realized, he wasn't scared of dying. He was scared of dying alone. I sat back. You should be. I stood up, took one last look at him, and said, I gave you my blood. You gave me silence. This time, you don't get either. And I walked out. I signed the legal refusal to serve as his medical proxy the next morning. Left the documents with the hospital. Told them to forward all future responsibility to the courts. I didn't attend his funeral. I didn't take the house. I donated the check anonymously to the local transplant fund back in Indiana. I never told anyone what he said that last night. Not my mom. Not Sarah. Not the boys. Because some things are better left buried. And some debts aren't meant to be paid twice.